Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on the Movies. Today we are doing a review of Children of the Corn for The Gathering. And it's not good. It does have some good stars in it. Naomi Watts, Karen Black, William Wyndham, and then another one is Mark Salling, who who was in Glee, and he committed suicide several years ago.
We're talking about Children of the Corn.
Well, they were in the movie. It's on his credits.
Children of the Corn for...
It's not a very good movie.
It's a bad movie, and for some reason I thought it was good as a kid. It might just be because it had some bloody kills at certain points, and I liked... Well, I don't like anything anymore, though, so I can't really say I liked anything. Like, it was bad. It was such a downgrade from Part 3. Safi?
Yeah, it was... it just pops right into it, and people get sick, mainly all the kids in town or whatever, and Naomi Watts is studying to be a doctor, and so she comes home to see her mother, who's Karen Black, and because she's having trouble, and her Karen Black's daughter and son are there, but this daughter anyway is really hers or something. We don't find that out until almost the very end.
It's a really pointless plot point.
Well, yeah, it doesn't even matter, frankly.
It's kind of irrelevant.
But anyway, and William Wyndham is the main doctor. And anyway, that's basically what it is, almost like 3/4 of the movie. We're back into this thing where the last fourth is significant in terms of we don't even know until almost the last fourth of the movie what this is about. There's no story.
The movie, it's funny because the question that I had at the end of the movie was why? Like, why did they do this? How did they look at the script and say, yeah, let's make that movie for the next Children of the Corn? Like, who the hell decided this would be a good movie?
And that's what I wanted to even talk. We're in a little bit of a time crunch, but I wanted to talk about what is the deal with... Like I said, we don't find out until near the end, the last quarter of the movie, what the quote story is, because it's a
weak story.
It's very weak.
It's like, who came up with that? A fucking pothead? And
I'm like, and I wanted to go over with Marco about,
I don't know.
What happened was these two old ladies, they told the story.
I wasn't paying attention because I just wanted it to end. I was so bored. I was like, I don't care.
It was about children who were, in this Children of the Corn thing where they're possessed or something. They're all dead. And so, I don't know, their ghosts are haunting these kids. And then you get... It's just the weirdest thing. It's like this way. One kid, I don't even remember his name, and he's a really good preacher, and everybody around likes listening to him. The adults, everybody, they think he's really good. And these two older men, who you never see a picture of them or anything, they just mention him. They take advantage of him, and they start using him, and they make money from him. And then he's going to get older, and they give him mercury somehow to stunt his growth, to keep him from aging. I didn't get that at all, and I didn't get how they thought that was going to help, and to keep profiting off of him as a child preacher. And then they end up, I don't know, I didn't understand, but they end up, I guess they killed him. And mercury's poisonous.
That was a big mistake, because we never actually see the kid preaching or anything.
No,
Like,
not at all.
I didn't get any of that because I just didn't care. I didn't even pay attention.
That's why I didn't understand it either.
I just zoned out and said, I don't care.
And
because the thing is that in all these other movies, I think we've seen the kid preaching. We've seen in the first one, Isaac.
And we just saw
in
it,
the
the
second
last one, a lot.
Keanu Reeves, Jr., and then in the third one, obviously, that was a lot of the movie was him winning everyone over.
Yeah.
So
he actually did. The kid did a really good job, I think.
Well, we're talking about the shitty one now.
Yeah, I know, but
the
now we
shitty
come
one,
to the, and it's
you
like
don't get any of that.
It's like it's weird. You have this one movie, the good one, which was the last one, sandwiched in between two really bad ones, and I don't know. This might be even worse than two.
It is worse
because there's no story.
But we'll talk about that. I mean, let's go through it because you jumped it really far ahead.
Well,
so
the thing is, there's not much to say.
Well, I have a lot to say.
Okay, well, you go ahead.
It opens up with, and this was really weird too, because it opens up with a nightmare.
Oh, right.
And it's like, what is this? A Nightmare on Elm Street movie? Like, Nightmare on Elm Street is the series that opens up with nightmares. So I thought that was really strange. And there's this really boring story, and it's just so bad. Like it nothing happens, and there's like some sort of a virus, and there's like this guy is accused of killing his wife, but he didn't, and the son is possessed, and he runs off, and there's these twins, and they are saying that they're these dead twins, and there's just so many stupid things that happen, and it's like I didn't care about any of it. I just it's like I just wanted it to end because it was so pointless and meaningless, and it didn't have anything to do with Children of the Corn. Like,
not really. No monster. There's no monster behind the rose.
This is
at all.
This is the Halloween ends of the Children of the Corn series.
I don't know, because you never really, at the very end, like I said, I guess, I don't know. It's just really hard. The ghosts of the main.
You're jumping ahead.
Well, I know that, but there's just nothing much to say. Nothing happens. There's only one. Well, there's a couple of kills.
There's stuff to talk about. Like, for instance, there are so many times in the movie where they cut to a random quote-unquote scary image. They do a flash, like a flash of light, and they make a loud noise. And they do that over and over and over and over again the entire movie, which signals to you this is the start of shitty-ass, bullshit, fucking shit horror movies from the early 2000s with the shitty fucking jump scares and the shitty teenage orientation of the gearing everything towards tweens. It's like this was all the start of that, this shitty jump scare effect that they did constantly as if it's scary.
And I don't know what jump scares they're talking about.
You don't?
Well, I just...
Throughout the whole movie where they just cut to random images with a loud noise and a flash?
They weren't scary.
That's supposed to be scary.
Well, it wasn't.
They thought it was scary.
They weren't. Not at all. Not even close. That's why when Marco says, I'm like, what jump scares?
It was irritating.
Well, yeah, that's what... Yeah.
You could take a shot every time that happened and you'd be dead.
Yeah. Yeah, you get alcohol poisoning.
Well, you've gotten that plenty of times, right, Safi?
No, I don't drink at all. I can't. Yeah, I don't drink at all. So, well, I don't know what Marco's talking about.
Well, you need something to get through this movie because it's so bad. It's so boring. It looks ugly. Like the movie...
It's very dark all the time.
It's very dark. It's poorly lit. It's grainy and gross looking, and like even Naomi Watts,
yeah.
even Naomi Watts looks gross because the lighting is so gross and terrible, and it's like this is a terrible movie. Like, I don't understand like what I ever thought was good about it as a kid. I guess I don't know, because it's such a disgrace to the series. Like, this movie should really be erased from history.
Well, it says in the I was just looking at the names of the people in the movie, but it said it went right at the beginning, like almost at the very top sentence. It said it went straight from the movie to DVD. So it really did. I don't even think it played in any theater then. I think that's what that means.
Yes.
So that shows that I don't think we're the only ones who thought it was not good.
Well, straight to video isn't always terrible, but it is pretty much a red flag at this point.
Yeah, a giant red flag.
Well, not anymore, I guess, because there's a lot of streaming movies like.
Yeah, well, that's because it's because of COVID and it's post-COVID.
No, it's not.
Now.
It's because of streaming services wanting to put
that,
movies on.
That too.
Original movies. It
Plus,
doesn't have anything to do with.
It's 1+1.
No.
I think so.
No, that's irrelevant.
But streaming, since there are so many streaming services, then yeah.
Well, the thing is that it's hard to even get movies into theaters because theaters, they've let these major studios monopolize the theaters.
With Marvel movies.
Yeah, with shitty ass Marvel movies that nobody cares about
and
anymore.
DC Batman with the crappy Batman.
Twilight Batman, Magic Mike, and stuff like that. And it's like back then, in like the 50s and 40s and 60s, you know, you had all these people who made these small movies and they'd show them in theaters, and that's how they got popular. And it's like, oh, you can't do that anymore because the theaters will only accept movies from these like huge studios that are complete trash. And it's like, movie theaters they're basically like in an abusive relationship with these major studios.
Yeah, because it's so expensive to go, and then plus you have the food that you buy there, that's expensive too, so it really makes sense to stream because it's cheaper.
Well, it makes sense because the studios, they don't give a fuck about the theaters. Like, they treat the theaters like trash, and they go behind their backs and they screw them over, and you know, they don't give an F about movie theaters. So it's so funny how like they've just let them monopolize the theaters, and so like I don't know why they started making these straight to video movies back in the 90s though, because it's like I'd love to go to a theater and see a Children of the Corn movie. And it's unfortunate that after part 3, which was like an awesome, perfect sequel, all of a sudden it's like, what happened?
I know, because the story is so weak and flimsy, and basically if both of us are confused about it, then it's pretty bad, because you know, sometimes it's just like for these monk episodes that I've been doing, I decided to watch them twice, and because I love to watch them, and I see detail, you know, about them that I didn't see before, and so, but this thing you could watch it 10 times, and you still wouldn't understand what the story is.
And for example, when I was a kid, I had no idea that the movie was about ghosts possessing the children. I just thought it was all about a virus, and then the children became evil, and they were evil.
And what's really weird, these are townie children.
Yeah.
And I mean townie by, there's none of them have a farm with corn.
Yeah.
Which is really weird.
Yeah, they live like in the middle of nowhere, and they're just all like kids that were flown in from New York and Los Angeles to be in the movie.
Well, they're towny kids. I mean,
Yeah.
their parents do things in town, and that's how they make money. And like, let's say there's probably there's the doctor, but he doesn't have any kids. But there's you'd have a hardware store.
He doesn't like kids. He just wants to beat them up.
Yeah, it was weird.
There's this one sequence where, and I would say, I guess that was an okay part. Like, there were a couple of, like, okay scenes. Like, there were these two kids, they looked really creepy, and they said that they were these dead children, and he got really offended personally, and so he wanted to recommend to their mom that she physically abused them, and then they started, like, messing around, and he's like, oh no, now I'm gonna abuse you, and I'm gonna beat you two up. And
he didn't say it like that, but
yeah, but
I'm gonna
that's
give
what
you
it
a
is.
blistering or something.
That's what it is. And so it's like, you could tell he doesn't like children, which was weird because it's like, up to that point he didn't act like that at all.
No, he was mad because the problem is the two dead children, they were twins, just like these two boys were twins. He knew them. He went to school with them. And so he really did know all about their history. And so when these boys were saying, I'm so-and-so and I'm so-and-so, and where our names aren't what you're calling me, what their real modern names, were these other kids, and he got pissed off because he thought they must have heard about them or something, and they were mocking him and making fun or thinking that was a joke. And they were, what happened with them? They were murdered.
They killed him.
Yeah,
there was this, like, and that was another thing. There were a lot of weird kills in this movie that were just kind of like, it was like they prioritized how good the kills looked over the purpose in the story, because they had this stretcher or something, and it was rolling down the hallway, and then a blade came out of one end, and then it stabbed
they had a
him.
tray of like surgical or instruments, and they were all scalpels, different sizes and shapes of scalpels, and a woman who was helping at the clinic, because all the kids in town, every single one of them had gotten sick, and there was something wrong with their blood, because Naomi Watts had been taking blood samples, especially from the kids who, this girl, she said, was her sister, and the boy, they were living in the house where she was living with her mother.
Don't over-explain, Safi.
Well, anyway, so
you just said the movie's not worth talking
she's not
about.
even a medical person. She was just helping out while Naomi Watts ran around. I don't know what she was doing, looking for what was going on, looking for this other boy and kid that was missing, and so she was a gym teacher or something at the school, but they make her get killed by pinning her to the door or something with the table, and then all the surgical instruments flew at her.
It's a really brainless movie, like, for how far out it is, and how it's pretending like it's doing something that's so different and interesting. It's really not interesting. It's like brain dead, because you can see the mechanics behind it. Like, okay, let's only film this movie at a couple of settings, like the clinic, and then the cornfield, the house. Like, let's not really film it like a real movie. Let's film it like a play. And then let's have a bunch of these kills sprinkled around here to keep people interested, because they're so brain dead. Like, this movie was just very brain dead. Like, the concept, let's just think about, if you were to pitch the concept. Pitch it, Safi.
I don't know.
Pitch Children of the Corn 4 without the Core 4.
I don't know what...
Okay, so there are these kids, and they're in a town, and there's this woman, and she's blonde, and she works at a clinic with and children
She
come to
just
the
came
clinic.
to town. She just came briefly.
No, I'm pitching the movie. And the children, they all get sick in the town. And it turns out that the children of the corn from the past are possessing them.
They're haunting them. Ghosts.
They're possessing them, Safi.
And they don't really... Well, I guess they show them a little bit, but hardly at all. That's where I think this Mark Sailing is a ghost. And I've been still trying to figure out which one he is because they just didn't even show them.
Well, they have this main kid who's like the Isaac stand-in, and I thought that he was really good. Like they showed him in the opening with the dream sequence where he comes in and he pretends like he's sick, and
he hurt his hand.
He was a really good actor actually. And then throughout the rest of the movie, he just kind of pops in and out like a computer glitch. Like, he just shows up and then he goes away. Like, he just... And then at the very end, I think he finally possesses someone and comes into the real world, and he gets killed in, like, an instant. So he's a really, like, ineffective Isaac stand-in. But back to the pitch... The kids get sick, and then they get possessed by the ghost of the children of the corn, and then she has to stop it. Like, is that a really good pitch for a Children of the Corn movie, Safi?
No.
Like, what does that have to do with Children of the Corn?
I don't know, because, yeah, not much. It's just a very weak story. I don't even know why we're going on and on about it, because it's a weak story. It's a bad movie. And there's things about it, like Marco said, with the jump scares, which I didn't even know they didn't even.
Those are supposed to be scares, Safi.
And they didn't even faze me. And
well, see, back then, what they preyed upon was if people weren't expecting something, and then there'd be a jump scare, and so then they would consider that better than actual scares.
Well,
so that started to replace regular scares.
The only surprising thing about the movie was that the little girl who was living with her mother...
That was not surprising.
That was her daughter. It wasn't her sister. It was really her daughter.
That wasn't surprising. It was stupid.
And she was using... for some reason, she was significant in
because she's
story.
One of the main kids. She's related to the blonde woman, so she has to be the most important one. Like, that's what I'm saying. You can see all the mechanics behind this movie of how the people who made it, they're like, we're gonna make a movie with this shitty late 90s formula for a horror movie, and it's gonna be really good. Wink wink. What?
Well, it wasn't, so
It was a little good at the end, though, because...
Yeah, the last part,
stuff happened.
Which is really funny, because contrary to the movie we just watched yesterday, Scream 6 or whatever, this one, the last fourth of the movie, was pretty good. There were a lot of action, but it's just because it was tainted, though, by the fact that there was no story. And it's basically just a lot of action, and the African-American father whose son disappeared. Of course, he's with all the other kids that are possessed, and they're just walking around in a daze. They all go to this barn.
I thought you said the story wasn't worth talking about, Safi.
But he has these shotgun shells, and one's black, and one's another color, and one has one purpose, and one has another. And one has mercury in it, which is what the little preacher boy from Children of the Corn, the ghost, he was killed with, poisoned with. And all of that I just don't understand. And because even when she started shooting, because she got in an entanglement in the end.
What ended up happening
she goes, oh, shoot, that's the black one. Like,
oh, Safi.
That's what she said.
That's what she
meaning
said?
the shotgun shell
Okay.
was the black one.
I thought,
There were two shotgun shells. One had mercury in it. The other had something else in it.
well,
And plus, another thing they did
It's
was they
sort
put
of-
some kind of boiler with the water. Remember, they turned it on.
yeah, they were doing like a ritual to, I guess, bring the Isaac stand-in into the real world. Like, that was the whole point of the gathering, I guess.
I
was
guess.
was that they would do a sacrifice, and then it would bring back the Isaac stand-in.
And guess who the sacrifice is? The little girl.
Yeah, and then
Weird.
Isaac stand-in comes back to life, and then he gets shot like a minute later, and he's gone. And it's like, it kind of turned into like a Resident Evil video game segment at the end of the movie. That was the best part, but it was still trash. Like, it was still lame, z. Like, I'd much rather watch part 2, which is terrible. Like, the thing about part 2 is that it's a Children of the Corn movie. And it's terrible that I have to say that, though, because part 4 has a lot of violence in comparison to part 2.
Yeah.
But it's just part 4 is so bad that's the only choice.
Yeah. So, are we ready to do our food review?
Yeah.
Okay, well, my food review is the other person in this apartment bought me these gummy bears. And they're called Haribo Gold Bear or something. And they are the grossest things. They're tasteless. And they're also hard to chew. And so I've never liked them. In the last 10 years, I've not been able to taste my food very much at all. And just basically fruit is what I could taste. And so everything's tasted like paper or, anything that's just tasteless. But these things, I've never liked them. Even before I had to take that chemotherapy pill. And he bought these for me, and so I said, well, I'll try a red one because it's cherry probably, and if in thinking that cherry would have some kind of flavor, more than like a yellow one or a green one. So anyway, I had one cherry one. And you could barely taste. It was just a faint hint of a taste. And then they're like hard to chew, and you probably hurt your teeth.
Yeah.
And I don't need that. If I'm going to hurt my teeth, I'll hurt them on eating corn nuts or something, which those have come back into being. They were not, you could hardly ever get them, but now for some reason you can get them. At least where we go to shop, you can get them $1 for a small bag, and those are a little bit hard, but they're not as bad as as hard and bad as they used to be. But anyway, they still can bother you, but I'd rather have that, and they have flavor and they're salty. But these things were horrible. They're really thick and hard to chew. And they don't taste like anything. I mean, they're just just almost tasteless. And that would be this movie, which had a very faint whiff of a story. And then they put these, quote, kills in, which is kind of like, oh, we've got to have one because this is Children of the Corn, and we have to make it, quote, good, which is a joke.
Specifically, they had this one kill where it kind of made me like roll my eyes, and it was when the black girl got killed, and like a sickle flies at her head and just stabs her in the head, and it was just like, yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Like it looked, I guess it looked fine, but it didn't make any sense because she wasn't doing anything wrong.
No, she had.
And
well, it's really funny because at the very beginning, there was a kill of, I guess he was a farmer, and he was drinking alcohol because he just tried to get some water from the well, and the water had turned to bugs. And of course, he had to have the alcohol to get the taste of the bugs out of his mouth. And so the voice of the bad Children of the Corn guy, who Marco said, Isaac or whatever, said, you're drinking this evil drink and blah blah blah. So he was doing something, quote, bad, having this alcohol, which what business is it of Isaac's? And so, because he wasn't around anybody else, he wasn't doing anything to anybody.
You think, and that actually would have been a better movie too, if like every time somebody in the town was doing something sinful, Isaac shows up.
Yeah, well, that would make more sense. But this girl who Marco mentioned, she was a gym teacher at the school. She just started her job.
She's just doing something to help out, as a favor.
Because all of the kids in town were sick. And so she was helping out. And what happened was the daughter was there with her. But she left. Or they took her or whatever. But she left. And so she didn't even know what she had been.
And the ghosts just throw a sickle at her head, and it made me roll my eyes because I just thought...
It was very forced.
It was forced, and it just seemed like, oh, it's a Children of the Corn movie, so obviously there's got to be a sickle killing, since there's a sickle in the first one. Like, there was no, corn in the movie, there was corn in the background.
A little bit at the beginning.
But not really much of anything compared to the third one.
No way. Oh, yeah. And they're
Which is
in the
funny
third one, they're in the city.
They're in Chicago.
They're in an urban area next to an abandoned factory. And there's, of course, a lot of big dirt area where the boy, had the corn seeds with him, and he planted all those rows of corn.
Well, they also go back to Nebraska.
Yes, they do that too, right,
so,
to get the Bible.
How is it that a movie that takes place in Chicago has more corn than a movie that takes place entirely in Nebraska?
In a rural area, I know.
It was
really
Nebraska.
Ridiculous. I don't know if it was Nebraska.
It has to be. That's the Children of the Corn area.
I guess so.
They should just rename Nebraska to Children of the Corn Land.
I know, might as well. And I hate to say anything bad about Nebraska, but...
Nebraska.
It's not... to me, and maybe I'm totally wrong, so I apologize to anybody who's from Nebraska. There just doesn't seem to be very much exciting about it. They used to have a great football team, and they've been struggling to get it back, and that was great. I mean, they were really known for this team. I mean, really... Because I remember everybody was afraid of them, and they were number one, and they had the best football players.
I think you're going to be afraid of my review.
But anyway, it should also be associated with Children of the Corn, because, I mean, they can do something with that for a tourist, area. But they may have some Native American history or something. I don't know, but
Yeah, they should do a movie about Native American versus Children of the Corn.
Yeah,
oh, wait, they
really.
did. They did in part 2. They had the Native American guy.
Yeah, that's right.
But they should do a whole movie.
That was weird. It did not seem right at all.
They should do a movie where the Children of the Corn come to a reservation, and then they try to get the kids from the reservation to join them or something. But anyways... What? Why?
That would never work. I think they'd have to go to an Amish place or for this women talking, go to a Mennonite settlement.
That was not in America, Safi.
Yeah, but they do have. We have one of the largest.
Not that specific.
Amish.
Not that specific story. So don't mention that specific story. And pretend like it took place in America.
No, but we have in Ohio, we have the largest Amish Mennonite area in the country.
Safi.
We do. And it'd be interesting. These Children of the Corn, they're so, I don't want to talk about it anymore, but it's just that It's just such a bad movie that we can't help but make
Safi,
up stories and jokes. What's your rating?
Yeah, speaking of jokes, what did you think about your fellow Goonie winning an Oscar?
Who?
You know your fellow Goonie?
Which one was that? Oh, yeah, that was really cool.
Yeah, did you like seeing your fellow Goonie win an Oscar?
I don't know what you're talking about.
You know. Okay,
are you talking about the Asian guy?
Safi, you need to start learning people's names and stop pretending
I'm sorry, I don't
like
remember
you have
his name.
dementia or something like that. Like you can remember a name once in a while.
That
like
one
Safi,
has-
what's my name?
His name? Oh, for
Sa-
heaven's sakes! I gave birth to you. I know your name.
Safi, what are the names of the faces on the computer right now?
I don't know, Marco. Would
Safi.
you please let's move on. We have something else to do.
What's your name? Is it Safi? No, it's Chunk. Okay, my food review is I was thinking about giving this movie cough syrup. Because it's not food. You don't want to eat cough syrup for fun because it's gross as hell and it's bad for you if you're just like eating it for fun. And so I thought maybe that would be relatable since this is not a Children of the Corn movie. But I thought I'd really like to give something that I should have probably given part 3. And so there was this one time last year, or 2021, where we went to Chili's and got dinner.
Yeah.
And I think I got a smokehouse combo with ribs and sausage and I think fries. And the ribs were gross. They were like, it didn't taste like what I think ribs are supposed to taste like. And then the sausage was
Excuse you.
The sausage was overly spicy and salty. It was like a jalapeno sausage. And then the fries were gross. They had black spots. They were cold. They were hard. They were cooked too long. They were gross. And so the dinner was like a wash. It was like a gross dinner. But then the one thing that I got that was good was the Mexican street corn, which I think is the best thing that Chili's has. The Mexican street corn. And I think that the last 20 minutes of the movie, you could call it Mexican street corn from Chili's. And it's good, and it has a lot of spice and flavor, and it's just really, really good compared to gross ribs, gross sausage, and gross fries. So that's what I would give the movie.
Okay.
What do you think of that, Chunk?
My name is not Chunk. I'm not fat.
Yeah,
I
but
can't even believe you say that.
You might be.
I can't believe a few months ago I weighed like 92, 94 pounds. And he's calling me Chunk. This is ridiculous.
So, Safi, you could be if you went to the gathering with the Children of the Corn and you eat too much at the gathering. Because what else are you going to do at the gathering? Listen to that dipshit preach who gets killed after coming back to the real world for like
so
2
funny.
seconds?
They made a very big point of that in this very loose, terrible story, was that the boy was a great preacher and everybody loved listening to him. They really loved it. And so these older preachers, you never see their picture anywhere, they just come up with them out of thin air, and they take over and they take advantage of him, and they get money.
Safi, you've already explained.
I know that, but I mean, it's just they make this big deal, and you never get to hear the boy preach. And I don't know, it's because they're relying on the fact you watch these other movies and you heard them, so you remember how he preached.
That's why I'm saying he's like Isaac, because that's why they give him that hat and the outfit, the black outfit.
Mm-hmm.
It's because they want you to think about Isaac.
Oh, okay.
That's what
Well,
they
that's
do
just
every
really
movie.
that's really queer because they should have had that. Now, how hard would that have been to have a little, like a minute of preaching, so you could see and be reminded of the past, and they don't really fully show. I mean, I noticed the poster for the
poster for the movie was good.
Yeah, they show the kid.
Creepy look to it.
And I guess that's Mark Sailing. I don't know. I couldn't tell. I looked at it, and they could have showed how hard would that have been. I mean, it's like it's such an incomplete movie, and it's just not worth watching. And I wouldn't recommend it at all unless you want to. It's just like when I read these book series. I'm listening to one now. They've got a new reader. After reading like 4 or 5 books, now they have a new reader. It totally changes the story. I don't know how. You'd have to experience it. But I don't know why they can't put these little, I mean, these things that we talk about, they're not really big things. They make and not all the time. Sometimes they are, like the story is so loose and
well, yeah. For this
nothing.
movie, they'd have to come up with something completely new.
They have to come up with something more than the little tweaks. But I mean, we talk about this all the time. A lot of things to say, oh, they could tweak this, they could tweak that, and they weren't big things, but they would have added so much more.
And it doesn't
made it more entertaining.
It doesn't seem like the people making the movies ever think about these things.
And I don't know why.
Weird.
What are they thinking about when they're making the movie? Just getting it done?
Getting it done.
And they're getting paid. That's what I don't get this. This is a job for them. And they're not doing their job when they make something like this. And they had good stars. Naomi Watts, she's been in all kinds of stuff. And Karen Black is... and William Wyndham, they're both legendary. I mean, they've been around for years. They've been in a lot of different stuff.
Nobody knows what a William Wyndham is.
Oh, no, that's not. He's been around. Well, he's been around forever.
Who is he in, like, some old people movie?
I don't know. And I don't know what is an old people movie?
Well, I don't know. What's a William Wyndham ever been?
He was in a lot of TV shows.
Well, what was he in?
I remember when he was younger and he had dark brown hair. Instead of this, he was... And now, in this one, he's really heavy, his white hair.
Well, if he wasn't in I Was a Teenage Werewolf, then I don't really care. So.
Okay, Marco. Well, anyway. So, if you like this video, give us a thumbs up and become one of our subscribers so you can add to the commentary. Don't just rely on our commentary. Why don't you add some of your own?
Well, yeah,
we
because
appreciate it.
there's hardly anything. There's hardly anything to talk about with this movie, even though it is 40 minutes.
But if you want to make it like it's part of a collection, like you want to watch every Children of the Corn ever made, so you can say you watched it. That's what we're doing, and so you could do it too. So goodbye, everybody.
Bye.